goodness, you guys. So, I wanted to go ahead and do this. It's actually it's like, I don't know, it's a couple of days later. I'm wearing this shirt again. It's like my favorite shirt right now. So don't judge me. You don't get to judge me. You don't get to say anything about it. I'm just kidding. No, but I'm just wearing it again because I went out to eat with my family before my birthday. I'm going to be leaving tomorrow. So I'm trying to film some stuff tonight. And I want to go ahead and just talk about what are some of the positive things about being mid-size, or like what are some of the things that I miss about it. I think a lot of times once something has ended, that's when you see what it gave you, essentially. And I feel like for so much of this era and for so much of this time, I was hating it and dreading it and all these different things. So I want to talk about like what are the good things about it, or what are the things that I miss about it, or what are the things that I got out of it in a positive way. As today, this video will be going up Tuesday. It's in between. Tomorrow, the new era begins. It launches tomorrow. Okay, which tomorrow is actually my birthday. So I'm launching it on my birthday. Period. So this is kind of like an interim video. So I was like, let me just do this. Because the thing is, like, I don't have much else to say in terms of Midsize Princess-ery. I think I covered everything. I reached the end of the road. So I want to just go ahead and talk about the good things, or what I miss about it. Which, admittedly, there's a lot of things I don't miss, but it did give me some things. So I'm just going to go kind of off the cuff and just talk to you guys. As you guys saw me have like multiple crash outs during my Midsize Era, and you saw me kind of crash out when I realized that it was over. I was kind of holding on to it, even though it was zombified. It was like dead already. So, yeah, I wasn't expecting like physical feedback to come through and kind of shut down the Midsize Princess era, but that did occur. So what did it give me? I would say that one of the biggest things that the Midsize Princess era, or being midsize, gave me, it gave me a lot of health and vitality and a lot of like chaotic energy. And a lot, like the mindset that I was in during the era, it enabled me to do really crazy stuff that I don't think I could do at any other phase of my life. You know, I was thinking about it today, and I'm becoming so much more introverted than I've been since I've started, basically, my activism. Because what had happened was, you guys first saw me, most of you first saw me in 2023, after I had been through like a very bad breakup, very harsh one, sudden, etc. And so let's just be real. Let's just talk plainly here. For much of the beginning of my activism, I was totally busted. Basically, I was like a busted, broken bitch. I was bitter. I was very sad. I was gutted. All of the things, everything. So a lot of how I talked back then, it was definitely influenced by that. The other aspects too were like, even prior to that, when I first started in 2022, it was kind of coming, you know, it was like the chronicles of a breakup foretold. So I was very like uncertain of what was coming. And so it was still kind of a part of my experience. It was that anxiety of like, ooh, I feel like actually downsizing, actually doing this is going to lead to an issue. I can tell. I had even asked him about it in the autumn of 2022. So I knew that it was probably going to be a problem. And then eventually it, you know, stuff went down, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not going to get into details, but it ended in April, and then I was gutted basically the whole year, which it was weird because During that time, I literally would talk about how losing weight feels like a breakup. It feels that way emotionally, and then I literally was going through one at the same time. So a lot of you guys didn't really know me outside of the shadow of a breakup, outside of the shadow of that whole thing. So you don't know me. You didn't know me. You didn't know me. You didn't know me as the way that I normally am. But after that ended, I went into like my tortured era, and things just changed drastically after that. After that phase, I went into this low dopamine, girly pop, fake extrovert era. And it lasted quite a long time. But when I was brat, I was not able to be as focused. So I was very like chaotic and, as the British would say, frazzled. And I guess I'm skipping over the tortured era. The tortured era, I was still kind of broken, but it was different. I feel like you guys were interested in that content a lot because of the E followed by letter D. That's when I started talking about that stuff a lot and very well, in my opinion, where I kind of came out with it and started talking about it and my experience with it and that kind of thing. And the channel definitely shifted during that time. I also broke out of super morbid obesity, and I entered into like a slight spiteful era during that time. So it was still like salty, I was very salty during that time, especially towards fat acceptance. Like I was still kind of bitter, but more so bitter activistically and in terms of like angry about the lies during my tortured era, essentially. So that anger kind of came through. And then when I was bratty, I went into that fake extrovert, low dopamine, girly pop era, which is not really me. It gave me courage. It gave me this feeling of like liquid courage, like as if I was drunk. But it's not really me. It isn't. And so when I went into the midsize era, I had that same fake extrovert quality, but it was also that, like, how do I describe it? It was focused. It was extremely focused, almost like so focused that I was like way too on the nose. Like, I don't know how to describe it, but like I was as sharp as a knife during this time, and I would say the brat era and the midsize princess era, they both were great activistically because my feelings were muted. It's in the brat era, it was that feeling of being drunk where it's like you have more courage. I wasn't as emotional. I could talk about these things so blatantly and bratified and like defy the toxic ritualistic expectation. And I could do it very well. And during the brat era, I described it internally. During the midsize princess era, however, I talked about it externally. And I was able to push and fight very aggressively every single day, basically, which a lot of you guys probably have the perception of me now that I am very, very disagreeable. I'm extremely tough as nails, and I will push through anything and say, fuck everyone and blah, 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 or like have that kind of vibe or that attitude. But that in reality is not actually me. And it's weird for that to be over. And I'm so glad that I got it on camera, because what started happening in June and going into July is like my feelings came back very strongly. I became extremely more emotional than I had been in a long time. So in a sense, one of the things that I miss about it is that little touch of coldness. It really helped my work. It helped me to be able to focus incredibly deeply and sharply, constantly in the midsize era. I could go. I did, honestly, I was phasing into the midsize era in January. I did it daily. I did the same thing in June. And being able to just get on here and just fight. Like have the energy, have the desire, have the fortitude, the drive, the push, everything to just get on here and fight every single day. It was definitely magic in a lot of ways. It was a lot to do, and I could, because I had the energy, and I also had the focus, and I had that extreme sense of anger and just frustration and just, I don't know, anal retentiveness. I could push. Like, I got so much done activistically. There are so many videos that are now on my channel and that are up during this phase. My output was more than it had ever been in my entire life. And honestly, I kicked fucking ass during this era. I did. Looking back at it, I'm so proud of what I was able to accomplish during this time. I was miserable. I hated it. I was so overworked, and I didn't give a fuck. I basically went headfirst into my inner Virgo side, which I told you guys I have Jupiter in Virgo. I didn't give a fuck. I just embodied it with everything I had, and I could just do it. You know? And it was great. And I think with a lot of people in my life and stuff too, it did change my reputation a little bit, because it wasn't something that I could just turn off when the camera was off. I was that way in general, and I was intense, and it was kind of like being a fake extrovert. It's like I always had to be on the phone. I always had to be out of the house. I couldn't stay still. I had to, I still had that low dopamine aspect. So while I could focus, I was also always understimulated. So it was a lot, because for me, I'm not that way. So my body was it was putting my body through a lot. Like, it is something that definitely cannot go on any longer, period. So I'm glad I caught it, and I knew it was important, and I knew I needed to, because I knew that this was probably the only time I could do this. I knew from an activistic standpoint, posting consistently in the bra era and the small fat era, the bra era and the midsize era, small fat, midsize, those two were so important activistically, because that is the point where you go from being very big to thin to normal. It was so important activistically. And this phase, I was able to get so much done. I was really able, in my opinion, to prove my point over and over and over again. And to be able to look back on that, it makes me so happy, because I used it, and I could do it, and I did it, and I'm so glad I did. I'm so glad, because that work is going to stay after. But it was intense. It was very, very intense. The other aspects that I miss is just, I do miss the lean gains. I do. I miss being able to go to the gym, go up and weight all the time, just constantly. I miss seeing the visible progress of my muscle growing on my body every week, every time I went, and all that stuff. That was crazy to me. And it's over. The other things, I think I miss some aspects of the fearlessness, or that I felt, some of the aspects of, like I said, just that drive to push and fight, and the fearlessness, and the ability to just constantly say no and just push through, bulldoze through things that people were saying, just so well. Just don't even give a fuck. Don't let it stop me for a second. Like, I do miss that in some regard. I also miss how I felt like I could move through life so fast. I could do things so quickly all the time. Like, I was literally starting to think, like, I'm just a fast person. No, I'm not. It was temporary. But I feel like, I don't know if it's some kind of, I don't know what you guys believe. I'm not trying to push anything, but if it's, a gift from God or karma or something, some kind of divine retribution, so to speak, for being so unhealthy, it's like that low dopamine drive. It gives you energy to catch up, in a sense. And if you use it, you can go very far. Even being introverted, I did a lot. I got a lot done during this time. And I kind of ran into that wall recently where I can't do it anymore. And I'm able to look around at where I'm at now in my life, and I'm like, oh my God, Alex, like, you're actually in a decent position now. You're not in a horrible place anymore. And that's because of the work you did during this midsize phase. That's because of that. So it's like, I'm going to miss those aspects going out of it. So what else? I think one of the hardest parts about losing weight publicly, oh, this wig is getting itchy. One of the hardest things about losing weight publicly and like doing things activistically and all these types of things, and also just socially in general, is every time I switch, every time I change these roles, my social role changes. And it's hard. You know, I've constantly felt like I've had to shed my skin over and over and over again as I've downsized throughout the years. And I feel like this new era that I'm going into, it's a calmer era. It's a contemplative era. It's a special interesty era. I'm getting very obsessed with everything. Like, for example, I just binge watched all of the You series on Netflix, and it was so weird. And I've been watching this really weird show with my grandma on my days off that is like, it's on Apple TV. I watched like all this sci-fi stuff, like just really overly complicated, like nerdy type stuff. You know, I told you guys I like randomly became re-obsessed with Final Fantasy X, which is so random. That is like so old. And I like downloaded the whole album of music, and I've been listening to the music like every day almost. I can barely go a day without listening to it. You know, it's like I do think there's a nostalgic quality to this new era that I'm going into. There's an introverted quality to this era, as I don't have as much energy. So I can't be fake extrovert anymore. I'm returning to introversion very quickly, to the point where like I was literally at dinner with my mom and grandma today for my birthday, like I said. And my mom was like, you're so quiet. You're so quiet. And I was like, Mother, I'm introverted. Like, this fake extrovert era is done. You know, I can't always be on my soapbox anymore. Like, that time is kind of over. Like, that was my Midsize Princess era. You know, I was able to get up on a soapbox every day and scream into a megaphone, which as an introvert, it was an interesting experience. I'll tell you that much. You know, and it's weird because I just allow these changes to occur. So as it's ending, I'm just allowing it to end, because it's kind of like, okay, it's time to come back home. It's time to be who you were. I feel very similar to how I was like when I was in high school or something. Like, I feel like the core of who I am is just more introverted, more calm, more type B, all these things, which, and dare I say, more agreeable, to be honest, which is weird to say, but it makes sense because you know, I think it's hard to develop the toxic ritualistic with absolutely zero people pleasing aspects to you. And I think that I'm coming home to it, you know, which is weird. It doesn't mean I'm 100% or whatever, but it means I'm a lot more than people think, you know. I do think there is that perception, which I have put that out there, which I do put it out there, or I did put it out there for activistic purposes, because I had to really set boundaries in the bra era and the midsize princess era because of the subject matter I'm talking about. I know it's triggering and people get very upset, and if they perceive weakness, they will just come after you, basically. But I'm just gonna have to be weak. I'm just gonna have to be a girly pop. I'm gonna have to just, I'm becoming so much more emotional and honestly less logical than I was during the Midsize Era in a lot of ways. But I was kind of like, really overthinking. Like, it was just weird. It's like, it's a feeling of being a fish out of water. That's what it felt like to me. And it's like, I've just returned to the ocean and I'm like, oh, like I was flopping around constantly in my Midsize Era. And it's like, now I'm just in the water. That's what I feel like. I feel like a fish returned to water. So it's like, okay, I have to redo everything now. I have to change my activism. I have to change how I work. I have to change my whole life schedule. I have to change all my social relationships again. There's a lot of people that I've gotten to know in the past few years that maybe have never known me this way. That's weird. That's a weird feeling. I think people that have been in my life for like 10 plus years, they're not going to be shocked about me just being me again. But it's like, I was so much more willing to take chances or so much more willing to take risks or to push for things or to go places or do these things during that era, during that low dopamine phase. And that's over. So it's kind of like, oh, the gates have to close, the walls have to come back up, I have to shut the curtains a bit. It's like I have to kind of pull back in a sense because I'm not actually extroverted. I've just been playing one on TV because I could and I needed to. And I think it needed to be done in order for the message to be heard, in order for the logic to be broken, and all these different things. And I so appreciate you guys that appreciated it. And I so hope that it has helped you every single step of the way. But it is going to have to shift. Don't be shocked if in the months to come, I'm a lot calmer. If I'm not yelling as much, if to some I might be boring, but I think to most, I'll probably come across as a bit more pleasant. I've always been unapologetic about showing every single aspect of this journey. Every single aspect. I've never put effort into hiding how I feel. I've never put effort into hiding the different phases or different shifts during this journey. But I think that this vanity weight era, it's much closer to the end. And I think it's different. And all I'm trying to say is I am so grateful that I caught it on camera because it was kind of like a once in a lifetime moment. And I'm so glad that you guys got to see it. And I'm so glad that you guys appreciated it. I really am, because they'll be there forever, So I'm grateful to the Midsize Era because I had a lot of courage during that time. A lot. I was, in a lot of ways, not always fearless, but I could act fearless. Even if I had tons of fear, I could just charge ahead. And I don't think I can do that anymore. Which, it's sad, but it's also, it's okay. It was a moment in time. And I'm sure that there's so many gifts to come in this new era. There's so much blessing, and there's other aspects and other ways to talk about this. And maybe those ways, they just might apply to a wider audience or be more pleasant, because I think a lot of people don't love the yelling, angry attitude. Some do. But most of what I did, I will just say, is for people that have the problem. You need to fight it. You have to be aggressive with it. Think of your toxic ritualistic as if it's like a narcissistic abuser. So if you think about like all the TikToks and reels and all this stuff that tells you advice on that and how you got to put boundaries and you have to treat it like this and treat them this way and that way and the other, you do the same thing to your problem. You don't trust it. It's always lying to you. It's always trying to control you. It's trying to take away your identity. It's trying to make you question your sanity. It's very similar. It's Pennywise. It is. In the bra era, it was Pennywise. And in the midsize era, it's that, if somebody's doing that stuff or trying to reinforce it on you, treat it like you would narcissistic bullshit. Use some of those same concepts of boundaries and not listening and all these different things that you would use, because it's similar and it's hard. And sometimes when we have to put up boundaries or we have to do these things, it may not be natural. You might be a very naturally feminine person. You might be somebody who is agreeable, and you have to do it. You have to, for the sake of survival, even if it is just in here. And if your downsizing journey, if it gives you that energy like it gave it to me, then use the hell out of it. Because in a lot of ways, this is your survival. This is your quality of life. This is your recovery. This is so important on so many different levels. And you cannot weakly fight it. You have to be strong. And people don't always want to hear that. But I'm telling you the truth. You have to be strong. But I think I'm finally getting to a point where that's done and I don't really have to be strong anymore. I can kind of calm down, or I'm going to have to actually, to continue, because I don't have excess energy. So it's interesting. I think I only have like a little bit of a pep in my step because I'm not in a deficit anymore. So it's going to be an interesting journey, but I think it will be very reflective and interesting. I have a lot planned. You'll see, we're starting tomorrow. So I just have to say, once again, I'm so grateful to you all. Thank you so much for sticking with me. I'm so grateful to people in my personal life. Thank you so much. It was wild. But, as Taylor would say, I had the time of my life fighting dragons with you. I did. I was fighting dragons this whole time. I liked being Elf Flopba. I liked it. It was fun. It was invigorating. It was exciting. But at the end of the day, it's over. And so we continue on. So I will see you guys tomorrow. Tomorrow is a new day, a new era. And we're done. I'm going to ceremoniously take off the wig. I'm no longer a princess. It's a wrap. It's a wrap. It's a wrap. Don't look. Don't look. Don't. You're not supposed to see it. No, I'm just kidding. But thank you guys so much. And thank you to me for doing it. I will talk to you guys later. Bye.